Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I am joined by the brilliant award-winning British Mezzo Soprano Phoebe Haines. Hi, Phoebe.
Hi, Kat. It's so lovely to be here with you today.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I'm just going to tell everybody a little bit about you. So Phoebe studied here at Homerton and then carried on her studies at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Phoebe has apprenticed with companies including the Salzburg Festival, the Aldeburgh Music, English National Opera, Opéra de Baugé, Centre for Contemporary Opera, and many, many others, as well as touring in 32 countries, if I'm not mistaken, and with the list growing. Phoebe, you might recognize from a recent viral video that went viral after, I think it was the Evening Strand reposted a video of you singing in your London balcony, and then this was published in 200 international press agencies, and you were able to raise funds for Street Opera and Help Musicians UK. Phoebe, I am so happy to be talking to you today. And tell us more. Where are you? What are you doing? How are you finding everything?
Oh, well, thank you, Kat. Honestly, it's an honor. It's really an honor to be here today with you talking about music and also just to reconnect with Homerton. I feel like I reconnect with Homerton mentally, kind of several times in the week or in the day, because so often actually I'm thinking of my experiences there, either consciously or unconsciously. So it's really meaningful for me to kind of be here and talking with you. So yes, so I am here in Stratford in East London. I've been here for the last year. It's been an interesting year for music making. But yeah, about 11 months ago, at the beginning of the first lockdown, I had the idea to kind of, do some singing. Why not? I live in a place where I'm on the 8th floor. I have a big courtyard surrounding me. And it was actually an idea of one of my friends. She said, why don't you go out on the balcony and sing? And my neighbors kind of egged me on and said, yeah, do it. So that was, ultimately it was just an idea to bring a bit of music to my local community. And then it did, some of the neighbors filmed it, it went online and all that kind of thing. But, I hope that I was able to bring a little bit of joy to people just through the power of live music, because obviously we've been doing so much online, online concerts, all that kind of thing. It's fantastic. But there's something about the human voice when you hear it close up and personal that I think is really nice. So so I've been doing a little bit of that sort of thing. I've been very busy this last week or two with a lot of Chinese New Year events, because a lot of my work and a lot of my passion is to do with China and with the Mandarin language. So I've had a busy couple of weeks, and then just slowing down a little bit now.
I did want to ask you about that because I read that you learned to both speak and sing in Chinese in 6 weeks. Tell me how.
So my first opportunity to go to China was with an amazing festival that I would love for everyone, all opera singers, to know about. And it's called Sing Festival. It's based just outside of Shanghai in a town called Suzhou. And I was invited there in 2016 as the sort of UK representative to sing at that festival. And that festival itself is kind of like, it's like a mini United Nations of opera singers, basically. So the idea is to have singers from all around the world, outside of China, and then also from, singers from China. And the idea is to do a cultural exchange and a language exchange. So not only are the Chinese singers, of course, singing in European languages, we're also learning to approach Mandarin as a lyric language, a language that you sing in, a language that you read poetry in, just like we would with German Lieder or French art song.
But that's brilliant. And you didn't just stop there, you carried this on later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was it. Kind of it ignited a spark in me, I think, when I first went in 2016, and I just thought, wow, this is fascinating. I'm just overwhelmed by not only the beauty of the language, the beauty of the repertoire, and all of the classical music heritage there, but then just the country itself, the experiences I had. So I didn't have an opportunity to go back until 2018, actually. But then from 2018, I did start to really take the learning of the language seriously, and that sort of has become my passion, and it's something I still do every day. So
I mean, I just find that fascinating. I may have stalked your YouTube channel, and I mean, it's just absolutely brilliant to see that it's not just a sort of novelty exchange, which many of these kinds of sort of organizations tend to end as soon as the sort of curtain closes, so to say. But you've really sort of taken that experience and used it in your daily life since, and I just find that incredibly inspiring, and that's really what it should be. I mean, it, other than China, you've toured in 32 countries. I mean, where have you been? What's your most sort of memorable experience? I want to hear everything.
Oh my goodness, wow. Yeah, it's been an amazing kind of decade or so. I feel like over the last year where we haven't been traveling, I've almost been able to just kind of go back and feed off some of those experiences and some of those memories. But just so many places, of course, Europe, France and Spain and Italy and Germany and Austria and Romania and all different places like that closer to home. And then also America, and then also India, and just so many beautiful places. One very special place to me is Austria, because I spent a season at the Salzburg Festival, which is just, as you know, Kat, just one of the most beautiful kind of magical musical cities in the world, with all of the stories from Mozart and Strauss and all of that kind of thing. It feels palpable in the air when you're there. So that was a really lovely.
I can imagine. But you went there. Were you doing your masters when you went to audition?
I was, yes. So I did a part-time master's, in fact, at the Guildhall, and then I went on to do a year of a fellowship, which is basically like a sort of a teaching position, I guess, where you still get to sing and all that kind of stuff. So so I was finishing off my master's when I went to audition there. And that as well was just, that was a really beautiful experience. It's a program that, of course, it doesn't need me to recommend it to anyone, because, of course, it's the Salzburg Festival. But it was just an incredible experience, and I'm so grateful to the people that led me to that opportunity, as well as the people that were there in Austria. So highly recommend it.
No, that's genuinely one of the sort of most. I just also love that you didn't do music necessarily at Cambridge, so you weren't studying just music. You were doing education, right?
Yep.
With drama. And I mean, how did you decide? Okay, I enjoyed these 3 years, but I know what I want to do next. Or did you know what you wanted to do next?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had, I think maybe like you as well, Kat, music has always been a part of my life, my childhood, my adolescent years. And I did, in fact, before I came to Homerton, I did 2 years of full-time study at the Royal College of Music as well. So I'd done junior college at Guildhall, and I knew that music was my passion and my thing, and I loved it. But I was desperate to come to Cambridge and to come to Homerton, especially because the course there that's offered was so diverse. Education studies with English and drama. I believe it's maybe the tripos has changed a little bit now, I think. But still, I know that the breadth of learning that you get at Homerton was something that really attracted me. And I thought, look, I would love to be an artist. I hope I can be an artist, but I want to learn about learning. I want to learn how the mind works, and I want to meet other people and hear their ideas and be in a place that's diverse and inclusive and friendly. I think I had always heard, Homerton is the most friendly Cambridge college.
Yeah.
So that really appealed to me, and it is, right from the moment you walk in.
Yeah,
It's so friendly. Even like the interview experience was just lovely.
I mean, that
Really...
is the sort of, I mean, everybody hits the jackpot when we get into Homerton, because it is just filled with absolutely lovely and friendly people, as you say. But I wanted to sort of just stay on the sort of education part of it, because you didn't abandon education. You're still working with educating sort of. I mean, you're a vocal coach, and you've worked with young children and with young adults, and sort of introduced them to opera in a sort of unique way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really think that the seeds for that type of work were absolutely sown at Homerton. I mean, look, not only is it a world-class, leading light in the field of education, of course it is, but the stuff that we learned there, I remember particularly learning about like Bourdieu, learning about cultural capital and all of those types of things. I think when I learned that really, I could really see how that applied to classical music, to that whole art form. And I think this idea about accessibility really stuck with me. I think when we come from school, we're in our school environment, and that's all very nice. But we maybe don't think, oh, what are these opportunities I've had, and how can I sort of make that accessible to a wider audience? I think for me, that is kind of my guiding light in terms of what it means to be an artist in our industry of classical music. It has to be accessible. It just has to be, and for 3 years, I had the honor of working with the English National Opera as a vocal mentor to their youth program. So with that, it was just a fantastic opportunity to make classical music and make storytelling really, really accessible and interesting.
I saw one of the sort of projects that you do is to bring a group of young adults or children, I'm not sure, and they watch a performance and then they workshop the performance, and a score was even written especially with the children's input and stuff like that. I mean, that is what every kid every kid who's involved heavily with music dreams about. I mean, that's an incredible experience.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And there's what I love about ENO and the Baylis department that administers all of the outreach programs is that it's about storytelling, it's about music making. It's not about this is classical music, let's put it on a podium and make it seem very, very sort of difficult to understand. Let's just tell a story. And actually, each and every time I am so struck by the creativity and openness and just the approach that young people have towards music making and storytelling. And I think that that's just been a real honor to witness that.
But yeah, I wanted to also talk about some of the sort of things you've been doing in the past year and some of the things you're hoping to do sort of in the next year, and hopefully when lockdown ends and the pandemic leaves us alone for a little bit. But I know you have future plans, and I definitely think I want to talk to you about, I read that you're hoping to work with another pianist, a French pianist, on the world's most expensive piano. And sort of those kinds of projects are brilliant things to sort of look forward to. And I know that you're planning an international tour, but what have you done now? What do you think? What's your thought process in approaching music now?
Yeah, it's a good question. This last year, it's been an interesting year to just kind of take stock and get back into a good practice routine, I would say, which is something that, obviously as musicians we need to do, but it's difficult if you're traveling, isn't it? And it's difficult to have a routine and a schedule like that. So I've been practicing, and I have been running a series of online, we've called them house concerts. So we like this idea, a couple of my collaborators and I, of this kind of salon concert environment, so that we are offering an experience that's very intimate and sort of tailor-made, and it's just like a normal recital would be, but we are doing it online. And we always work with a charity partner for these concerts. So the last one that we did in December was with Great Ormond Street Hospital Children's Charity. The next one, we are working with a charity in the States for ovarian cancer research. So we always pick a kind of a charity that's close to our hearts, and then offer a program of music. And it's a great, it's a lovely opportunity for me and a couple of my other friends just to come together and to like musizieren, the word in German that's just like to be with people making music. We haven't had that this year, and that's been something I've kind of relished, and then in terms of, as you said, when the world does get back to normal, hopefully I do hope to have a concert with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra at the Henley Festival in July, which was supposed to be last July, and which has been postponed for a year and will hopefully happen this summer if all goes to plan. So yeah, and then the world tour with Stephanie, we were really looking forward to that last year, and then it will happen in due course. But the way that came about was purely through just basically friendships, through people that I had met going around the world, and I had just formed a sort of affinity with musically, and then these ideas just sort of came to mind. And I think that's something as well that was impressed upon me at Homerton, that friendships and communication is super important. I mean, not to blow her trumpet too much, but my best friend Alice Wainwright from Homerton, we still speak basically every day. She is an award-winning businesswoman. She now has an MBA from Imperial College. She has won awards and all kinds of accolades in terms of being like a woman of the future and a business leader. And she also studied education studies with English and drama. So that's not necessarily something that you would think, oh, that leads into someone being a strategist or a marketeer or a business leader, but it does. And she had a passion for sociology and for how the mind works, and she took that into her professional life, and also does a lot of charitable work as well within that. So she has that really strong sort of civic conscience, I think, that was impressed upon us at Homerton. So
well, yeah. I mean, that's very sort of, it's good to hear as a third year student. And I'm sure that, I mean, I personally know that much of what I learned here is not going to necessarily be about the books or the readings or about sort of, I mean, the critical thinking is always going to help, but it's about what I've decided to do with my 3 years here. And I think that hearing firsthand about an experience that has literally led you to, I mean, a brilliant career that's, not to jinx it, that came out of something unexpected, is just so comforting and so inspiring to hear. But so I want to also hear more about your actual years at Homerton. So what were you involved with? What were you doing? Obviously now it's not necessarily the same sort of societies or the same type of exposure that societies can get because of the pandemic. But I mean, what were you doing here other than your degree?
Oh my goodness. So many things. I was actually reminiscing about this with Alice the other day, but just so one of my biggest things was CUJO, Cambridge University Jazz Orchestra, which it gives me goosebumps when I think about it. I loved that orchestra so much, and I from first year right the way through to third year, I sang with that orchestra, and we went to Italy, and we went to Budapest, and we went to Montreux Jazz Festival, and it was just the most amazing experience. And some of those musicians in CUJO are now like some of the most famous jazz musicians, definitely in the UK and maybe even in the world, so they were just incredible collaborators. So I had CUJO. I was a member of Cambridge Footlights as well. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed sketch comedy and all of that kind of thing. Did a lot of plays, Romeo and Juliet we did in third year. One of the most amazing theatrical experiences actually that I had at uni was the Cambridge Greek play, which I know still happens, doesn't it? Every 2 or 3 years, I think. Yeah. And that was, oh my goodness. It was in the year that I did it, it was Agamemnon. And I played Cassandra, and my friend who also came from Homerton, Catherine, she played Clytemnestra. And this experience was really life-changing, actually. It was incredible. It was not only learning a piece of ancient Greek drama, it was learning it in ancient Greek, having to learn the characters and all that kind of thing, which I know has helped me when I've come to approaching Russian repertoire for opera, when I've now come to approaching Chinese repertoire, learning to read a different alphabet and interact with it and understand the sound qualities. We worked with the classics department for that. I remember so clearly these like supervisions with Professor James Diggle, who's an incredible just an incredible, inspiring person. He was teaching us all about the sound qualities of the language, the meters of the poetry, how to express it on stage. And then my character was almost completely a song role. So they made the whole thing into like a pseudo opera with a chorus. It was life-changing. It was honestly one of the best shows I've been in ever. So I would really recommend anyone to get involved with the Greek play. And what else? Yeah, so many, just, I just have so many fond memories of all the kind of late night rehearsals and cycling to the ADC and all of that kind of thing. And then just feeling so in such a supportive environment. Obviously, standards are extremely high and every play that you do will be critiqued and everyone will have an opinion, which is, very valid, but you felt overwhelmingly like you were in a supportive environment. You could try things out. You could be an opera singer and a jazz singer and an artist and you could try out all these things, and it was so much fun. I love it. There's not been a 3 years in my life like that before or since, really.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, especially with the trying out new things, but also all of them just add to a big range that as any kind of performer you will then have. And I mean, even doing plays that aren't sung roles, I'm sure helps with building characters then later. And I mean, I definitely think that that experience is always so valuable. Now, we've reminisced, we've talked about the current, we've talked about the future. What is the sort of the thing you expect most from the coming years, just from a musical sort of sense? You've talked now about you mentioned the virtual concerts that you're doing. Do you think that will stay? Do you think that virtual concerts are going to be a thing of the future, or do you think that we're going to sort of go back gradually to audiences? Because from my limited performing years, I the rush of being in front of an audience is something else. And obviously for singing, other things are a matter of sort of matters to think about, such as acoustics and sort of the right type of ambience for a performance. But just the sort of main point of a concert, do you think that that's going to ever go back to normal?
Oh my goodness. I really hope so, Kat, honestly. Yeah, I do hope so. I'm, as I mentioned before we were on record, I'm very much a kind of analog type of person in general. Whilst I am embracing the digital world, and I think there's so much obviously that can come of technology, so many good things. I love being in a room with people. I'm a social animal, and I agree. I think, it's that rush that you get from performing, and it's also the communication that's happening between you and those audience members. It's palpable, and I think even at this must have been at Homerton, we learned something about this concept. I think it's called, I'm going to be butchering the science here, but it's something called mirror neurons. And it's something that happens in the brain when you're witnessing a piece of art or you're hearing a singer. Something like the neurons in your brain fire off, and your vocal cords, when you're sitting in an audience watching a singer, even though you're not phonating, your vocal cords are vibrating sympathetically with that singer. And I don't know if that happens via Zoom. I don't know. But just
oh no, sorry, carry on.
no, that's it. Just that intimacy of performing with people there, I think is special, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I love people and I love being surrounded by people, and I just love experiencing things in a group and to a group and with a group. It's a different sensation. But I also I've been a bit reluctant to sort of appreciate all of these things that technology has brought us this year. And I mean, I've been to several masterclasses or lectures or seminars or just events that virtually, because usually in normal circumstances I would never have been able to attend something in, I don't know, Hong Kong at 2 o'clock my time or etc. And now it is so accessible, but then I don't really see that as different to watching a YouTube video, even though it is technically live. And I think that is especially what I'm really looking forward to, just experiencing something live and knowing that it's live. that's definitely something
Yes.
to look forward to.
Definitely. And I think we'll have a renewed kind of hunger for that, you know, as audience members, won't we? Because we'll just be craving that sensation, I think. So
Well, actually, this is something that I was thinking about. You've mentioned the relationship between you and an audience as a performer, but I mean, I've felt for years, because I was brought up in a very sort of musical environment. I went to music primary school, music high school, and to go to the theatre was something very normal for me. And even to see a play, not necessarily a performance, a musical performance, but it's not as normal for young people just who aren't doing music. And I actually think that this is going to affect that much more when we stop, and when we're able to go to the theatre, and when we're able to see a performance live, people will want to take their children, because they'll also want to go more than they may have maybe wanted to go in past years. I'm really looking forward to seeing new generations that will be so immersed within this world that, I mean, I used to love being sort of part of when I was a kid. I loved the adrenaline. I loved being around, surrounded by just, I mean, an audience, and watching somebody doing that. And I think that that's definitely something that's going to come back, sort of, I'm hoping.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that line of thought as well, because there have been so many high quality, you know, theatre broadcasts and performances online that, yes, I'm very hopeful that that will engage a new audience, like you said. And then it's just, you know, I think hopefully it will make it more accessible, I'm hoping.
I went to a performance by the Cambridge, I think it was the Cambridge Opera Society. I think I went last year or the year before with a few of my friends from college who had never been to the opera, as in had never seen an opera and thought of opera as singing but loud. And I remember just really watching them watch it and thinking, wow, you are experiencing this for the first time. But that again it sort of got me thinking about how people who aren't in the music world sort of perceive opera. So how do you get young people to appreciate it, to even come to watch, to just think about it?
I think, yeah, it's a good point. I think really it's incumbent on us as musicians and music makers to create work that's interesting for young people, you know, and that doesn't mean changing it, lowering the standards, making it simpler in any way. If anything, I think it means that we have to make the standards incredibly high and impeccable, so that, because you know, young people, children, even as young as 3 or 4, they have such a keen radar for what's good and truthful and what's not, you know. So I think, yeah, I think it's really, the responsibility lies with us really to make it engaging and interesting. But all humans love stories, you know. We love symbols, we love stories, and we love, like you said, to be in that environment and have that kinesthetic feeling of, oh, you know, there's someone there doing something that's quite difficult, and they're giving off this adrenaline and this energy, and it's communicative. It's not just an opera singer standing on stage and an audience all in the dark watching. There's something more communicative about it, I
So
think.
how do you bring new audiences then into to opera, into watching opera?
That's a good question. I think it probably does start with education and young experiences, right? I mean, I think I first went to an opera when I was 16 or 17. So I'd been studying singing and singing classically, but I hadn't seen an opera before. You know, I'd sung in choirs and things like that. So I think, you know, we're so lucky to have institutions like ENO that have active and long-term partnerships with schools, so that, you know, storytelling, music making, singing, it becomes part of the culture in a school. I think that's probably the way to do it, to normalize it, you know. 'Cause we're normal, right? You know, so it's not something scary and weird. It's something very kind of, it can be strange and it can be unsettling when you hear a loud singer or a loud instrument in a small space, but that's exciting, right? I mean, I think that's really exciting.
Absolutely. I must have been around 11 or 12. And before my voice matured, I was quite good at choir and things, and the national the National Theatre from back home, because I'm from Bosnia, was looking for a children's chorus for the opera Carmen, and I was sort of lucky enough to be part of it and was one of the children running around. And that experience completely changed the way I was. I grew up thinking my parents would play opera all the time in the house, and I hated it. I hated the sound. But when I was part of it, it changed my life completely. And I mean, it was staged. There were costumes. There was sort of colors everywhere, colors both sort of visually, musically. It was just an amazing experience. And I don't think that if I hadn't had it, that I would have carried on down the sort of line and appreciated classical music as much. But I mean, stuff like that is just something that changes the way we think about things. And I mean, the same with being in your first play or being in your first band even. It just changes the way we appreciate and think about it. And I think that's so important, especially for children now who won't have had years of such experiences. But yeah, I'm very conscious of time for some reason. So maybe if you choose one thing that you think is the perfect thing that a Homerton student will, or adult or professor, but anybody from our community will really value and want to sort of think about, stop this video and just sort of sit for a minute and think about, what would you say?
Oh, that's such a tough question. I was, in the few hours before we came online, I was thinking, obviously, I was reflecting a lot about Homerton, and I was thinking of the experiences I'd had. And I was also, I was aware from looking online about things like Changemakers and all of the amazing initiatives that you have at Homerton, and just how progressive the atmosphere is there. And I suppose this isn't really, I guess, no one really needs to sit and ponder this necessarily, except for the fact that it's so inspiring to me to have been part of, to feel included in, in a college that's so has such an amazing heart and conscience. That's the only way I can put it. That they're looking backwards in terms of the history and the fact that they're part of an almost millennium old organization, but they're so, the Homerton is so forward looking and has such a social conscience in terms of creating an environment that's inclusive, diverse, that questions things and that supports people. I think at Homerton, I felt supported. I felt totally like, I could, there's so many experiences, like even in my first year, I did go through an unexpected loss, and during that time of bereavement, there was no question that I was going to be supported academically. I was going to be supported mentally and emotionally, and that people would just gather around me, and it's like, yeah, I don't know if that's something to reflect on necessarily, but Homerton is an incredible place. Anyone that is there is so fortunate to be in that environment. And I know that everyone who studies there carries forward that mentality. So that's just something that I guess I've sat and thought about. And I feel very lucky indeed to be part of that.
I really like that. I do think we should appreciate the support we're given and then remember to support others. Yes, I really like that. And Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us, for talking to me, and just for being such a wonderful, inspiring person.
Oh, thank you. This is an honor, really. I'm inspired to talk to you, and this has been very, very special. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who watched, and please do tune in to the next video. Bye. Si tu ne m'aimes pas, je t'aime. Si je t'aime,